Welcome to the Killer Boobies podcast, Unraveling Breast Implant Illness. Here's your hosts, Wendy Bunnell, Leslie Smoot, and Brandy Vega.
And welcome to Killer Boobies podcast today. I'm thrilled to have you meet our special guest today. This is Andrea Koehn, and she lives in Jacksonville Beach, Florida. So she's enjoying the sun and the good weather right now. And Andrea is a health coach, and she's gone through the School of Integrative Nutrition. She's also a breast implant illness survivor, and she's going to tell us her story about what she went through. But I'm most excited, Andrea, to have you tell us about your schooling and how that helped you through your journey, and what you learned about nutrition and how that supported you through breast implant illness. So I'm hoping we can really make that the emphasis. But welcome to our show.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Leslie, for having me today. I'm very excited to be here. But yes, I would love for everybody who's listening today to learn about how nutrition plays a huge role with, preparing yourself for explant surgery and after. But most importantly, I'd love to share my story with you.
Good. Well, let's get right into that. You had your implants, I think you said you put them in 2008. Is that right?
Yes. Yep. So summer of 2008, I was 21, and I was very excited to start my summer off with, some fake boobies, like I can say to all of us listening.
We all get it.
Yes. So, I chose to have a smaller set put in just to kind of complement my figure. It was more for me that I got them put in, right? So with that being said, I would say from 2008 to about 2013, little symptoms would happen along the way, and I kept pushing them to hereditary reasons like thyroid, infertility, things like that, anxiety. I was just, my aunt had that, or, oh, my mother, whatever it was, I kept playing it to my hereditary genes.
Yeah.
With that being said, it started in about 2017 when my life took a dramatic shift. From everything from panic attacks, gasping for air in the middle of the night, anxiety, mood swings, infertility, thyroid issues, irritability, just you name it. I had probably 30 of the 50 breast implant illness symptoms.
Oh, wow.
And not only that, let me back up a minute. So with the year 2017, when my life kind of went a little chaotic, I went ahead and I just started researching, what could this be from? I'm 20, at this time, I think I was 28 years old, 29. Yeah. It all wasn't making sense for me.
No.
I'm fairly young,
Right.
I live in a somewhat of a decent home, what is going on here? So I started learning that nutrition, could play a huge role in kind of taking back my health. I started playing with it a little, started really tweaking my diet. But then I started hearing more and more about breast implant illness. And it was the oddest. Oh, you go ahead.
Well, where were you hearing stuff about breast implant illness? Because I still think in 2000, at this time, 10 years after 2008, I guess, breast implant illness was under an undercurrent topic.
Under the radar, exactly.
Yeah. So how did you start hearing about it?
Absolutely. It was probably, the end of 2018 that I had just had my son, July of 2018. I was at a hair salon, and I'm dealing with major inflammation, blood pressure, dysregulation, like you name it. And I started just talking to my hairstylist about all these different issues. And she knew that I had breast implants. And she said, you should talk to my other stylist that I work with. She knows about breast implant illness. And I looked at her with like 5 heads, and I'm like, what do you mean breast implant illness? These things can't cause anybody to get sick, right?
Yeah.
So I ended up talking to her. She's like, look, she told me her story. She said, look, do yourself a favor, get on Facebook and join this Facebook group. So I did, as we discussed.
That was the group, Nicole DeRuda's group.
Yes, Nicole DeRuda's group.
Good.
And I started just typing in my random symptoms, like gasping for air in the middle of the night. You know what I mean? And then it would pop up 20 girls' stories of sharing that they were going through the same thing. To take myself at 29, 30 years old, I literally was getting wills prepared. I was getting, all of this prepared. I used to tell my husband every night, please make sure the kids know how much I love them, and I didn't know if I was going to wake up the next morning. I went through very challenging things. So finding breast implant illness, finding Nicole DeRuda's group gave me hope.
Yeah. So many women have said it feels like I'm dying from the inside.
Absolutely. I'm getting chills all over when you say those words. Absolutely.
Yeah. And it's so confusing because it doesn't make sense. And we're trying to understand why, but we know on an intuitive level, something inside us is breaking down and destroying us. And many women have had those conversations with their spouse to say, okay, I don't know how much longer I'm going to be here because I'm just tanking really fast for no good reason.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I couldn't find the reasons. By finding Nicole's group, it kind of gave me hope. But then you're also up against a challenge of, is this really what it's going to take to heal me, right? So that was something else that I had to kind of dip my toes in the water of, crossing that bridge of faith, of knowing that this is what is going to heal me. So it was a huge leap of faith to set up my Explant, but it was just one of those things. My health was deteriorating so fast. And I didn't have answers. I literally gave birth to my son July of 2018, and they kept saying everything. It's so funny. I went to a pulmonologist, cardiologist, my gynecologist. I went to a primary doctor, probably went to 4 Western doctors, and they all just kept saying, oh, it's postpartum. You'll be fine. The gasping for air in the middle of the night, it's just because you gained some weight with pregnancy. And this is my second pregnancy. And I'm going, there's no way. Right. So, in more research, I'm wondering if my body had just went through that major milestone of delivering a child, and kind of put a few things off. But yeah, it's just crazy to kind of look back.
Yeah. And it does take a leap of faith to move forward, not just because we're unsure if we can regain our health, after having the surgery done, but there's also a big financial constraint.
Risk. Yes, absolutely.
And then there's the fact that you're going under general anesthesia.
Absolutely.
And you wonder, okay, is this the best thing for me as a young mom to go under anesthesia? And what about any complications? And when you don't feel well, you pay a lot more attention to that list of possible side effects or complications, right?
Yes, you nailed it. When I went in the first time, I was waking up in the morning doing dances and, so excited. The second time when I went under the knife, under general anesthesia, I was bawling my eyes out the whole way there. Like you said, when you're so sick, you think of everything, and then when you add 2 kids to the equation, you're looking at that as a risk, so it was a big decision. It was.
Yeah. So when did you make the decision to go ahead and do the Explant surgery?
Great question. So I learned about breast implant illness. It was the end of 2018. Keep in mind, this is when I started really learning about nutrition as well. It was the spring of 2019 that I joined on at the Institute of Integrative Nutrition at IIN. Loved what I learned. I kept learning more and more, and it kept connecting me to different people that I followed that also mentioned breast implant illness. So all these little things started happening. Found Nicole's site, like I said. So it was, it was right after I had enrolled at IIN. So it was April of 2019 that I booked my Explant. Mind you, I booked my Explant with a doctor that truly did not believe in breast implant illness. He was the same doctor that performed my original surgery. I would give advice that, you know, if anybody is listening today, to perhaps maybe find a doctor that does believe in you and your story, because that was one thing that I wish I would have done. But being as sick as I was, I think I was just looking to go to somebody who I trusted and just to get them out and to just have the surgery done.
Right. And did you have that conversation with him about you wanting to make sure that you removed the capsule?
Absolutely.
You know how important that is. And did he buy into that, even though he wasn't sure?
He was hesitant, oh, I do that all the time. And, kind of just a little disregarding to my questions and whatnot. And I will say too, my capsule, I'll be completely transparent. It was so attached to my ribs and my lungs that he had to like fine tune around it. When he showed me pictures, it did not come out in a complete encapsulation. So it came out, he said he got everything, but I just wish I would have went somewhere that was, you know what I mean? Just in hindsight, if I were to give any advice, it would be to go to somebody who believes in it, knows the importance, knows about total encapsulation and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would emphasize that too, mostly because I've interviewed doctors who have had to go in after someone's had an explant surgery and a second time and remove what's left of the capsule, because strangely enough, that capsule can keep people sick. So, that's good. And women can listen to these doctors talk about that and go through the list of people on Killer Boobies podcast to look at those doctors and find out. So
absolutely. I totally agree.
There are good doctors across the nation and they'll get you in and take care of you the right way. Absolutely. So after you had the surgery and you were also learning about nutrition, what were some of the things you did to help your own recovery?
I love the question. So from learning stuff in school, I learned about inflammation, and I was dealing with major inflammation to the point where I was having also like my lymph nodes weren't moving properly, my lymph system, the drainage and things like that in the body. So I really focused on cleaning up my diet. I thought I relatively ate healthy, but what I wasn't considering is all of our white foods that still turn to white in the body once we break it down and digest it, right? So even though I was eating gluten-free pasta, it still at the end of the day turns to sugar in the body. Right. I was kind of tiptoeing a little bit in a vegan vegetarian diet. A lot of beans were consumed, a lot of sweet potatoes, a lot of potatoes, those things, they all turn to sugar in the body as well. So if I had to give any insight, I really tried cleaning that up prior and after surgery, and still to this day. But my surgery date was June 26, 2019. So literally I'm 1 year and almost 1 month to the day.
Amazing. That's great. That's great. So you mentioned you felt like your lymph system was not functioning correctly. How can women recognize if their lymph system is boggy?
That's a great question.
Not working right, so that they can also clean it up.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know this might sound weird, but I felt mine in my neck. I felt like it almost like I would have to like move it down and push it down. My ankles were swollen. You can tell the ankles were swollen. When I sat down, my veins on my arms would bulge. So mine were more physical, right? That I could look at. Ways to help. I love this question. I went to IR saunas. That really helped move my limbs. I did dry skin brushing almost every morning to really get the lymph system moving. I kind of partook a little bit in rebounding, but I think because the capsules were so attached to my ribs and lungs, I couldn't do that much like jumping and that deep breathing at that moment. Now I'm much better. I can get back on my Peloton again. I can get back, and do some rebounding, but really something like an IR sauna, dry skin brushing will really help. And of course there's whole food supplements and herbs that you can take as well.
Yeah, but I love the dry skin brushing. I have a dry skin brush. I keep it in my shower, and it's just kind of a routine that I've created where I before I've even turned on the water, I jump in the shower and I get that dry skin brush and I brush. You know, you can go online and you can get little instructions for this, but you're always brushing upwards towards your heart.
Towards your heart. Yep.
Yeah. And that's, I mean, you know, what is it? $10 maybe to get a dry skin brush.
Yeah, absolutely.
So minimal investment, but really good way to get the lymph system moving. And then the infrared sauna, those are great. And there are some places where you can actually get a pass and go
That's what I did.
Infrared sauna on a regular basis, because if you wanted to go out and buy one of those, it's a mega investment.
It's a mega, yeah, 3,000 to 5,000. Yeah, it's a major thing investment. So we had a little, like a little spa near the house, and they had one. And like you said, I purchased a pass, and you have to build yourself up to it. I could not just go in immediately and do a 40-minute session. I did 5 minutes, 10 minutes, you know, and built myself up over the course of a few months. But now I just have to do it every once in a while. But also something we need to remember, if our lymph system is not moving, we're not moving out the toxins, right? So it's a major, major thing that we need to look into doing. I mean, I wouldn't say so much focus on it before Explant, because we still have the breast implants in us, but afterwards, it's a great addition you can keep with your routine.
Good, good. So you noticed a difference for yourself when you started doing things started moving again.
Yeah, you do have a little bit of a detoxy feeling after, you know, but it's nothing you can't conquer, you know, and also positive mindset, right? Walk into that the IR sauna, tell yourself how great this is going to be for your body. You know, you start manifesting what's going to happen in your life. So reality.
Exactly. And some of those can hook up to your phone so you can play like a really good meditation, or you can listen to something that's uplifting. Listen to music if you want to, or take a book in there and read. So you can find your own ways to help keep you calm and happy about detoxing.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So what did you find that helped you so much nutritionally to help you rebound and get your body back online?
Absolutely. So nutritionally, you know, I kind of used everything that I had found, you know, and I was a huge follower of Medical Medium prior to joining, you know, with the school at IIN. That was kind of my first gateway into nutrition, right?
Yeah, and he's actually spoken about breast implant illness.
Great!
He's got a podcast where he talks about that, and I mean, I have actually messaged him. I would love putting it out there. I would love to have him on our show.
Yes, Anthony, we would love you if you're listening.
Please come give us some more advice and some suggestions. Yeah. So you were into the medical medium.
Absolutely. And, you know, I follow other doctors. I followed the schooling. And like I tell my clients, you know, you can't really dive deep into just one way of thinking or follow one doctor's exact regimen. I tell my clients all the time, you kind of have to like pick and choose what's going to work for you with each person that you follow or read or, you know, research. So one of the biggest things was sugars. We have to watch sugars, and that's prior to Explant and after Explant. Just that alone, Leslie, will take your health from 0 to 100. And I'm not just talking about cakes and pies. I'm talking about the hidden sugars, the natural forms of sugars. I'm talking about even things that turn to sugar in the body, like we mentioned earlier. So these are all really, really major key roles that I did, you know, after my Explant and before. Yeah, absolutely. And one thing I will say too, like we all kind of know with Explant, I literally had my Explant, you know, June 26, 2019. And by 1 week later, I'm laying in bed watching Outlander, you know, Netflixing, you know, whatever, healing. And my husband came in the room about probably 4 days later, and he looked at me. And of course, you know, I ate usually whole food, relatively healthy, but he said, Andrea, you look so much thinner. My body was so angry, even though prior to Explant, I was trying with all these inflammatory foods. Your body's still angry, right? So when your body's angry, it gets inflamed. So after having the surgery, I dropped my first, I would say 8 to 10 pounds within the first week and a half, 2 weeks, laying in bed, watching Outlander, eating whole foods. So, I mean, and a few bonbons, I will admit, gluten-free bonbons, but, but it's one of those things, once your body is not angry anymore, I want to let everybody who's listening know, like, it's a major difference.
Yeah, it is. It's a major difference. But I think a lot of that happens when you are taking care of yourself. I like to say,
absolutely,
when you take care of your body will take care of you.
Absolutely.
And what I found before I got my explant surgery is that I would try to take care of my body, but my body wasn't responding.
Absolutely.
Ultimately, that told me, okay, I'm not getting to the root problem, and it's going to take a major event like getting these breast implants out
yes.
in order to correct my health.
Yes.
But what was amazing, Andrea, is that after I had the surgery and I did those things to take care of my body responded.
Absolutely. It was like, thank you, Jesus. I can focus now.
Yeah.
That's how I tell people all the time.
It's so motivating. Like,
yes.
It's very demotivating to try and to see no change. But results. It's very motivating to be able to take care of yourself and then have your body respond. So,
yes.
So how do you crowd out sugar? Because sugar is so ubiquitous in our culture. And like you mentioned already,
yes,
when we eat foods that we think are going to be low sugar, we think we're doing things to help ourselves, like the gluten-free pasta and a lot
yes.
of sweet potatoes or potatoes.
Yes.
So what did you do to make sure that you weren't even eating the hidden sugars?
So, in my mind, and I tell clients this all the time when I'm going over the sessions with them, is that white turns to white. And I know this might sound silly, but kind of run with me for a minute. So let's say your breads, your, bagels, your pretzels, your chips, whatever the case, muffins, they're all usually in the white family, right? Like the color of them. So a silly way for me to remember in the beginning was white turns to white. What is white? White sugar. So that's just, I know it literally doesn't turn to sugar, actual table sugar, but that was just a silly way for me to remember it. So for so long, I was like, oh, well, I'm not eating cakes and I'm not eating pies and I'm not eating cookies. But the problem was I was still eating gluten-free bread, gluten-free crackers, gluten-free this. And I thought I was doing my body a major justice by doing all of those changes.
Right.
I also, really dove into the anti-inflammatory foods, what helps the body fight, inflammation, what foods do we need to avoid? So I really focused on like double veggies, protein, instead of, I think we were all raised with the protein, a vegetable and a starch, right? So I would just usually double up on the veggies. If I was doing, a chicken breast, I would do some spinach and maybe some green beans, or spinach and carrots, whatever the case may be. And with clients, when I go over this session, their eyes get so big because they're not able to understand that, bread's bad for you. It's got no sugar in it. Pretzels are bad for you. It doesn't have sugar in it. So it's very informative, I feel, for all of us to remember that we should be watching these items before and after surgery.
Yeah, exactly. My biggest vice is crackers.
Oh.
And I'll make a really good dip, like a really good veggie dip that would show up like from a raw foods perspective as like this amazing high nutrition dish.
Yes.
And then I'll eat it with crackers and I catch myself. I'm like, get the carrots, get the celery, get the cucumber.
Oh, I know.
They're going to taste not just as good, even better than the crackers.
Yes.
It just takes a tiny bit more effort, but
it does. And also too, I tell my clients all the time, like, everybody has to live a normal life too. So if Saturday night that you're going to be having people over and you're going to make this delicious, let's say, like you said, the delicious veggie dip, allow yourself that moment, but then just know all week leading up to that, let's really dive in. Let's really get the, nutrition in. Let's avoid all of that stuff. So that way Saturday you can treat yourself.
Right.
Yes.
Well, give us a snapshot, because at the beginning when you were talking about being sick with breast implant illness, you said you thought you had like 30 of the symptoms.
Absolutely.
So did those start disappearing once you started taking care of yourself?
Oh, I would love to talk
Surgery?
about this. Yes. And I remember I met a girl, her name is Jana, through IIN, and she had gone through breast explant, and she had breast implant illness as well. And she had her explant, I think it was about a year prior to me. I leaned on her tremendously throughout this journey because I remember her calling her every flare up. I called them flare ups. I don't know how you call them, but after surgery, we have these things called flare ups where our body's trying to detox these, these toxins. And she just kept telling me, Andrea, I promise you every flare up's going to get better. It's going to be shorter and it won't be as bad. And I can promise you the same. Every flare up, it's going to get better and it won't be as intense. But a flare up to me is where our original symptoms, they come back. So, for me, it was the gasping for air, the panic attacks, the anxiety, depersonalization, the blood pressure, and I can literally go on for another 5 minutes with my symptoms. But I will say, versus my first flare up probably hit me, I'd say a few weeks out of surgery versus probably my last one that I just had 3 months ago. Night and day difference. I almost didn't even realize I was going through a flare-up a few months ago. It was so minute. It was so small.
Yeah. Yeah. So do you think okay, let's talk about flare-ups, because I think that really throws people. And once again, when we talk about things that discourage people, a flare-up can be discouraging because if you've been sick for a long time and you have a flare-up, the first thing that goes through your mind is, oh my gosh, I'm not better. Oh my gosh,
I'm not
sick
better.
all over
Was
again.
this worth it? Yes, absolutely. And and I always, anybody that I am talking to about this, clients, friends, people I meet at Publix, wherever it is, it is honestly one of those things that I do like people to know and to expect, because I don't want to provide false hope that after this explant, everything's going to be perfect. You will go through some valleys, you will have some challenges, but just know every single month things get better and better and better. Where I am today, I am probably down, I think 35 pounds from last June. But like you said, prior to explant, I was doing all of these same things. I was going to cycle class, on my Peloton, lifting weights, watching my nutrition, you name it. Yeah. And my body was so angry. I say angry, I don't know what other word to say, but she was angry with me, and now I'm still instilling all of those. And I may not even work out as hard as I was before, but the good news is that weight has come off. Those burdens have been lessened. Right. So yes.
Right. Okay. What would you say to the person who is feeling courageous enough to go forward with a surgery to remove breast implants, but that person is afraid to make dramatic lifestyle change and they want to stay on the same diet? Do you think they're going to experience major health changes once they get the implants out?
I would say yes, that they will experience change in their symptoms, absolutely, but it may take longer for them to heal, right? So, let's say for, somebody who is watching their nutrition, for somebody who is cutting out these foods that they need to cut out, they may heal and not experience major symptoms, let's say for only just 3 months after explant, where if somebody isn't making the nutritional choices after explant, they may still experience quote unquote flare-ups after explant for 2 years, 3 years. I don't know the exact number, but I will say you will heal faster sooner if you do watch your nutrition.
Yeah, I have to agree with that completely. And that comes from my own experience. It also comes from the experience of listening to other women and who is successful with this and who struggles. Yeah. And, one of the things that I struggled with immensely before my breast implant removal were rashes. And I had nasty, horrible rashes that would cover a great area of my body and burn and itch and interrupt every day and really uncomfortable. And when I got through my 6 months after post-op of eating really healthy, I kind of went on food vacation where I was like, I'm going to have that cream cheese and I'm going to have this and that and the other. And well, it wasn't as bad as it had been before, but I started to
Yeah.
get a rash underneath my
It's
armpit,
like a yeast. Yeah.
the good old fashioned rash that I was dealing with before. And it was a great reminder.
Yeah.
It was a great reminder that I had been symptom free of rashes for so long, and
Yeah.
that the correlation was directly, there was a direct correlation to what I ate,
Yeah.
what was going on with the interior of my body. And I thought,
Yes.
okay, that was a good lesson. That was a really good
Yes.
lesson for me to learn that, yeah, it's okay for me to occasionally have something, but
Absolutely.
not to take a food vacation. And I do that out of personal choice because I want to live in a place of wellness and health and energy
Yes.
and clarity of mind. And
Yes.
when I took my food vacation,
Yeah.
brain fog right
Oh,
here,
absolutely. Yes, you'll notice these things, and which means our gut is still probably trying to heal, right? So I know breast implants throw the gut way off, with the gut health. So absolutely. So you were feeding the, probably the bad, whether it was yeast or bacteria or whatever it was in your gut, you were feeding it.
yeah.
So it wanted to thrive and stay alive. But speaking of food, it's funny. Anytime because my husband, he's on my program, but anytime we go on a little quote unquote vacation, like last night was my son's second birthday. And I'm telling you, we, even though I made a gluten-free cake, with low sugar icing, all of it, we both looked at each other last night, bloated bellies. We're like, oh my gosh, how did we used to feel like this all the time? You
Right.
kind of get reminded as to how you don't want to
Mhm.
feel. So it's a good reminder. Like you said, it puts you in check a little bit.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And it's helpful. So tell me what you're doing to help other women, because
Yeah.
in the breast implant groups that I'm a part of, I
Yes.
can see that we flounder as a group, as
Mhm.
women. We go this way and that way and this way and that way on our recovery process, and with our nutritional approaches, and with our we have a strong desire to get better, obviously.
Yeah.
But sometimes we flounder in knowing what to do, how to do it. Tell me how you're helping other women with breast implant illness, since you've gone through the journey, you
Mhm.
have a background in nutrition, you helped yourself. How are you helping other women do this?
Absolutely. I think it's holding them accountable. It's providing hope. It's kind of allowing them to truly, it's the accountability piece, right? Because like you said, they can flounder back and forth. Should I really, oh, I can eat this, or I'll just go ahead and do it this one time, So really holding them accountable, letting them realize how good they feel when they are making the right choices, and then maybe how poor they feel when they don't. So bringing it to their attention, but truly just being there for them, listening to them, all of it. I feel like as a health coach too, we're talking on the plate and off the plate. We're not just talking nutrition.
Yeah.
So that's a huge role in healing too.
Why don't you give us an example of what might be going on with us off of the plate?
I love it. So we have what we call primary foods at IIN. So what happens? Primary foods, and then we have secondary foods. So primary foods are things like our career, our relationship, our joy, our spirituality, things that provide us fulfillment off of the plate, right? In our everyday today. Then secondary food is actually foods that we put into our mouth to provide us nourishment. But what goes to happen in a lot of women is when things aren't going well, and men too, everybody, when things are not going well with our primary foods, career, relationships, all of those, sometimes we turn to those secondary foods to provide us comfort. So we just need, and let's talk about when you're not feeling well, when you're sick, when you're dealing with these symptoms, sometimes you may turn to secondary food to provide you comfort. But what does it do? Like we just discussed, it makes you feel worse than you even felt before. So it's just kind of maybe showing fulfillment, showing love to those primary foods in your life. So that way you don't have to focus so much on secondary food for comfort.
Yeah. And, I think that the world right now is a little topsy-turvy. People are having stress at different levels. There's a higher level of fear going on. There's a higher level of divisiveness that our culture is experiencing for the first time. It's really hit a peak.
Yes.
And those kinds of things can add this stress that we aren't accustomed to, we're not comfortable with. And then it is easy to just try to find other ways to comfort ourselves. So are there some healthy ways of helping us work through those stresses so that we can feel balanced again?
Absolutely. I always suggest to patients all the time, get out in nature, meditate, go, maybe attend some online virtual spiritual practices, right? Whether it's church or whatever, Joel Osteen or, whoever you want to listen to, podcast, uplifting things that can provide us some primary food, also, even just getting with your spouse or your loved ones and just spending some intimate time doing something that maybe you don't relatively do all the time. But just finding new joys in life, right? Because we're so used to our previous way of life. Things have changed dramatically. So we almost have to find our new norm.
Yeah. Yeah. Since you live close to the beach, is it true, like when you just stand in the sand, that the stress level just kind of drops?
I swear it is something that we have to go at least once a day, if not every other day. It is such a grounding technique. It is such a grounding experience. Your worries just kind of fade away. Watching the water roll in and roll out, and it's just, and just watching people find joy. You really don't see too many upset people at the beach, Everybody's having a great time. Everybody's happy. So we love it. We're about a block from the beach, so we walk over there with the kids, and that's our backyard. So they run around and chase birds and jump in the water, and I sit there and, enjoy the kids and get grounded.
Yeah.
We can all use that right now.
We can all use that right now. And I don't live anywhere near the beach, but I do live in the mountains, and we have mountain lakes, we have mountain rivers, and
get out in nature. Yes.
Yeah. Any body of water, I think, is actually really soothing.
It is.
My husband and I went up to Idaho. We live in Utah, but we went up to Idaho and went fishing, and I just sat there and watched him fish. And it was it was a great way to decompress and just listening to the sound of the water. It was so beautiful, just sitting next to the river and reading a book. And nature has a way of healing us, even if you're just walking in the woods.
Absolutely.
Or walking on a trail in the neighborhood. Even if you can just get in your own backyard or in a friend's backyard, get on the ground somewhere.
Yes, absolutely.
And try to ground into the earth and feel the stability of the earth, and that you're always supported, and connect with women like us that just are here to help other people.
Absolutely. It's very, very, very important to get grounded, especially when you are dealing with the symptoms. Your mind can be so busy and it can race constantly. So really just finding a place to get quiet, is super beneficial.
Yeah. Now you're in a network of women and men that have gone through this program at IIN.
Yes.
Why don't you tell us a couple of things? First, we want to know, how do we connect with you, and what kind of services do you offer people? And then give us a greater picture of how do they find out more about the Institute of Integrative Nutrition in case they want to learn for themselves what that program is all about, and maybe they'll find that beneficial right now.
Wonderful. Yes. So like you said, I'm a health coach. I help people understand what to eat, what not to eat, what we should avoid, what we should be adding in, as silly as like how to grocery shop, how to read labels, getting that knowledge. I feel like when I provide knowledge, this is a permanent change in your life. It becomes a lifestyle. I'm not one to just hand over a diet and say, okay, here you go, and good luck, I'll see you in 2 weeks. We need to come up with a diet plan together. We need to understand what nutrition is. So I provide a lot of knowledge. I see clients all 4 days a week. I have a website and an Instagram as well. So they can definitely get a hold of me. The services that I offer is health coaching. I do virtual pantry makeovers. I do it virtually now, of course.
Great.
And we'll be saying too, I can see patients locally in Jacksonville. I do patients virtually all the time. So it doesn't matter where you live. But the virtual pantry makeovers, as well as grocery store tours. I love the grocery store tours for those who are really new to this, who don't understand a lot about gluten-free or a lot about the organic stuff and things like that. It's very beneficial. But for the virtual pantry makeovers, for everything we get rid of, I will help you replace it with something that is healthy and that you can eat. Usually for my health coaching, I'm working about 6 to 12 sessions per patient. And so we're really covering a lot of information.
That is so great. I just want to help people remember that when you embrace a new lifestyle for yourself, not only does it impact you, but everyone you live with.
Absolutely.
Impacted in a positive way. And
yes.
I'm going to tell you a quick story, but I think it's very telling. And here's what happened. Yeah. So obviously my preference is to eat as clean as I can because my body responds so well. Yes. And like you and others that had breast implants, my gut was such a mess that in order to survive, I had to eat really clean. Otherwise I was in such distress. But in my household, I've always teased my husband and said, you have an iron gut. You can eat anything you want. Like, yes. It blows my mind that he could eat something that would just wreck me. And he was fine. He seemed fine. Well, I signed him up to go to a functional medicine doctor that works over here in Park City. And I went with him to the doctor's appointment because my husband was getting what he thought was carpal tunnel. And
inflammation in the body.
His hands were really stiff. They were aching a lot at night. The joints were just really uncomfortable and inflamed. And he thought that this functional medicine doctor was going to say, yeah, you need to go and get carpal tunnel surgery. Why did he think that? He thought that because somebody else told him that he needed to go get carpal tunnel. And because he's a functional medicine doctor, which is very much like an IIN person, where they look at food first and they look at the root cause.
They get to the root cause. Yes.
And you know what he said?
Yes.
He said, I can tell you eat a lot of gluten and you have a lot of sugar in your diet. And
the first two things I remove from everybody, right?
and he said, take out dairy too. And literally within 2 weeks, my husband's wrists were great.
Yes.
And so I just think that is such a good reminder that it benefits all of us, even if the other people in our household aren't suffering to the same degree as those of II. They are suffering in a silent fire that's going on within their body if they're eating inflammatory foods. And so to have a health coach educate someone, not only will it change your life, but everybody that you influence and everybody that, if you're buying for a household, you're going to make some changes that will help everybody. And
everybody can benefit from it. That's what I tell people every day.
Yeah. And it's just so much more beneficial if you can have a coach work with you. And so that's why we wanted to have Andrea with us today to be able to talk about what she does for a living.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah. So then if people are interested in finding about the Institute of Integrative Nutrition, how do they do that?
Go to the website, iin.com. They can have more information provided to them on the website. It's a wonderful school, very organized, very detailed. The lectures you will listen to is outstanding. Some of the lectures I listened to 2 or 3 times, but it is either a 6-month program or a year-long program that you can sign up for. So very, very great stuff.
Yeah, it is wonderful stuff. And I completely endorse that program. I've actually gone through it myself. And it was one of the gifts that keeps on giving, because that knowledge is with you forever.
Forever. And even if you don't want to pursue this as a career, even somebody like my mother, for instance, if she wanted to do a 6-month program and learn about it, it's just going to benefit your life, right? So it's all just knowledge on and off the plate. A lot of topics are discussed, and it's wonderful information.
That's good. Okay, so we will put your personal information in our links so that people can reach out to you and that you can help them. Ladies, if you are suffering from breast implant illness, or if you've gone through surgery and you're still struggling, please reach out to her and get someone that can help you be accountable and can help guide you through this so that you can feel better faster. There's nothing quite as good as a healthy body. Nothing tastes as good as a healthy body feels.
Absolutely, yes. Yes, I really appreciate you guys having me today. This has been wonderful. And like I said, I'm always a walking billboard for breast implant illness. If I can help change one person's life by giving them this knowledge or help them get through breast explant, that's what I'm here to do. So thank you guys so much for having me on.
Great. Thank you, Andrea. I hope you have a great day.
All right. Thank you. You too.
Okay. Bye.
Thank you for listening. Spread the word by subscribing, liking, and sharing the Killer Boobies podcast today. You could be the person who helps someone reverse their pain and suffering and reclaim their health today.